Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, OnScreen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to OnScreen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about Season 1 of Chucky. Yes, Season 3 is currently airing of Chucky, but I am not there yet. I had not seen this show at all and just finished Season 1, and so that's what we're going to discuss on this episode. We also have our On the Horizon segment, and we're going to be talking about a game that came out just recently in our On Tap segment. Let's get started with On the Horizon.
On the horizon.
On the Horizon is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so, and we're going to start things off with Thursday, November 2nd. That is when All the Light We Cannot See comes to Netflix. That is the Holocaust movie about the blind woman doing a radio signal and like a Nazi who falls in love with her, and we've seen a few trailers for it. It's got Mark Ruffalo and some other people in it.
Yeah.
Hugh Laurie is in it as well. That comes to Netflix on Thursday, November 2nd. Also on Thursday, November 2nd, Onimusha comes to Netflix. This is the adaptation of the video game, and the adaptation was done by, of all people, Takashi Miike. We mentioned this when the trailer had come out. Then on Friday, November 3rd, Blue Eye Samurai comes to Netflix. This is the one that's being done by Michael Green, who did Blade Runner 2047 and American Gods. He was a co-showrunner on that with Brian Fuller. So he's doing this
nice.
Blue Eye Samurai animated series on Netflix on Friday, November 3rd. Then, also on Friday, November 3rd, Fingernails comes to Apple TV+. This is like a sci-fi story about a machine that can determine whether people love each other by taking a fingernail from each of the people and testing it, and accurately be able to know if the people are meant for each other by sacrificing a fingernail.
Interesting.
Apple TV is doing all these real high concept shows, you know?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That is Friday, November 3rd on Apple TV+. Also on Friday, November 3rd, but on Amazon Prime, Invincible returns for its second season. They're only doing the first half of the second season, and then the second half of the season is going to be airing sometime in 2024. So, frustrating split season stuff, but oh well. Then, also on Friday, November 3rd, Quiz Lady comes to Hulu. This is a movie, stars Sandra Oh, Awkwafina. It's about a dysfunctional family, and a game show. So they decide that they need to make money, and they're gonna do that by getting the person on the game show. Kind of reminds me of the part of the plot of White Men Can't Jump, if you remember that movie.
Oh, yeah.
But that is coming on Friday, November 3rd to Hulu. And then lastly, WarioWare Move It is coming to the Nintendo Switch on Friday, November 3rd as well. So that is it for On the Horizon. Now we're going to move on to On Tap.
What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap.
On Tap is where we talk about stuff we've been watching or playing, and usually we do that in full spoilers, but as the name suggests, that's discussing with full spoilers in a more detailed approach. On Tap, we just kind of touch base with some stuff that we've been playing, and there's a certain game that came out on the Nintendo Switch just recently. Will and I have both played it, and we figured it was a good time to discuss it. Neither of us have beaten the game, so we can't go into like way late stuff in the game. I'm about, I finished the second castle. That's about what I can say.
I'm middle of the second world.
Okay.
I'm in the middle.
So we have a little bit we can talk about, and the game, of course, is Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So first off, I want to say I stand by what I said when this was first shown, when everybody was losing their fucking minds going like, oh, it's so different. It's so different. I'm like, this is clearly the bones of the new Super Mario Bros. Games. And then they took that and then they added a shit ton of flavor and animation attention detail, and I think that's good. It's still good, but it's
I
clearly
don't
still
think-
the bones of New Super Mario Brothers.
I don't think I ever contended that it wasn't.
Oh, a lot of people were losing their fucking minds.
It was obviously like the skeleton, but like
yeah.
the meat hung on it. I hate this analogy. Is completely different.
The way I like to think of it is like, think of like Street Fighter 2, okay? New Super Mario Brothers, the original, was like Street Fighter 2. If you go, there's like less gradual things. Let's say Street Fighter, the amount of change that happened in the franchise on the last New Super Mario Bros. Game, which was New Super Mario Bros. U, would be like Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. And this is like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but the one that was hacked by people like outside of Capcom, so that like when you do Chun-Li's kick, like fireballs fly out. And when you hit the player select, you change players. That's like what this is.
Okay.
So it's like it's a bigger step than all of the other New Super Mario Brothers games had over each other. But then in addition to that step, there's also just some absolute crazy bonker shit added as well. So
anyway, let's talk about the game.
Let's talk about the game. So I do really like the game. I think the Wonder Seeds have kind of been hit or miss. Some of them are kind of boring and reused, like the same kind of idea reused a few times. And then sometimes one hits and it's just like, what the fuck? What's going on? This is so weird, you know? It's just absolutely nuts.
I love the variety and creativity. It's great because you do not know what's going to happen next. You do not know what you're going to encounter next at any point.
There seems to be more of a puzzle element than you normally see in 2D Marios as well.
There is a puzzle element to some levels, yes.
Like sometimes finding you can see the Wonder Seed, but getting to it requires you to kind of like figure out a puzzle, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Zelda level puzzles, but it's way more than what you'd normally see in like a Mario game.
Which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta break up the monotony of like, you know, like, oh, just get to the end of the level. Like, again, like all Mario
you're
games.
rushing to get to the end of the level. And this time, I feel like there's been several occasions where I've like stopped and like walked backwards for quite a bit and then just kind of like looked around and was trying to figure something out, you know, like, wait, how do I get to that Wonder Seed? Like, how do I do this or something? And that seems very unlike what you would normally do in a 2D Mario. Normally, it's just kind of, you're trying to move as quick as you can. But there's no like time limit here, you know, so you don't really have to worry about that. You can
they removed the time limit, so yeah. And that's why I think like they moved in like a direction of like having more puzzle elements to the platform because they did remove that time limit, and I think that freed them up to do that kind of thing. Rather than in the old system, you know, like there'd be the worry that, you know, like players would get frustrated as they time out trying to like solve the solution to like these platforming puzzles.
I think they went about as far with that as they could with the Luigi update to New Super Mario Bros. U, like the Luigi DLC or whatever, where they shorten the time even shorter. So you really have to rush to get through the level. And that made it like that game had like a sense of panic, like that you had to kind of rush and get through. And you had to kind of get through those environmental puzzles and quickly resolve how to get through it. And I think like there's just not much more they can do with that. Between that and having like the Mario Maker games and stuff, and like how much people were making these absolutely insane complex levels that you have to like kind of rush through, even besides the timer, just because if you don't rush through, you're going to get hit by like a billion things at once.
Yeah.
And that kind of like gameplay thing, I think they've just kind of tapped that for now. So I think with Wonder getting rid of the time limit, they're exploring a different approach, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, like with a Mario game, you could certainly just run straight to the flagpole in these levels, and that's fine.
But if you want those Wonder Stars, and that's like the real highlight of the game.
You get more out of the experience by trying to collect the purple coins and the Wonder Seeds in each level.
Mm-hmm. You actually made like worthwhile purchasable things, which is something we've seen in 3D Marios, but I don't think we've ever seen in a 2D Mario.
It's funny because like it was the first time was in Odyssey that we've seen. There wasn't like any purchasable items in any previous Mario games. So, like, Odyssey was the first, and then, like, they're doing it here. So, I don't know if, like, that's just a thing that, like, is going to be, like, a Mario staple going forward.
I like that, though.
I do like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I enjoy being able to buy stuff. I like the badge system and the way that works into this game, and that some badges you can buy in stores, and those tend to be like bonus badges, like ones that you would use more in replays than for your first plays. They're like things like you get more coins, or there's more blocks and stuff, and that can give you more rewards and other things. Like that, those seem to be the ones that you can buy in stores, where the other ones, the ones that you have to like do a level to get, are like the ones like getting a double jump off of a wall, or, you know, being able to float with your hat, like as a really early one, or the dolphin kick for the swim, you know? Like those ones are like levels that you have to beat to get those. And then the other ones that are more like, you know, you've already beaten this level, you just want to build up a bunch of coins, you put on a badge that makes it so you get way more coins, and you run through like a level that you know already has a lot of coins, and it's a good opportunity to like cash out. Those seem to be the ones that you can buy in stores. And then they have the standees that you can buy as well, which I've been buying a bunch of, probably too many. Like I haven't even used the standee
I bought like one standee so far. It is a fun gacha element, but I kind of like decided, I bought one, but I kind of decided, okay, you know, like I'm going to start collecting those like only after like I purchased like all the badges and wonder seeds and important items.
Probably a good move, but I always do it like if I have extra, because I know like the wonder seed, every store location has like a wonder seed basically for like 100, and then they have a badge, and the badge will be like what, 10 or 20, something like that, and then the standees are like 10 and they're random. So like let's say I have like 120,
it's a gacha
like
element.
if I have like 120, I'll buy like one of each. I'll buy the one wonder star you can get there, I'll buy the one badge you can get there, and then I'll buy the standee. But let's say I have like 180. Well, then I'll buy like the badge, the wonder seed, and then I'll like spend the rest of the points that are under 100 if I'm under 100, or like I'll get myself down to 100 on like standees, basically. That's kind of the limit I set on myself for that. But yeah, and that's just my completionist attitude. Like I just have to like see that grid fill out, you know? I haven't even used them. I just have to see the grid filled out. It's just a little typical gamer OCD type thing. But yeah, that's an interesting element, and I like that. I like the purchasing element in Odyssey, and I like it here as well. And the badges, I think, especially the way they're doing the badges with the kind of the more like point-based badges, the ones that you use for like replaying levels and stuff, being the ones you get in stores, I think is completely the right move.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But as I mentioned before, the real star of Super Mario Bros. Wonder are those Wonder Seeds.
Yes. Can I also say, like, I was instantly astounded by just like how crazy and creative this game can get, because like the first part of the game is like a mini tutorial area where you do a few levels before you get into World 1 proper, and the second one literally has a dancing and singing piranha plants, and I was not prepared. I was like, what? Okay. I was not prepared. And I'm like, okay, you're hitting me with this stuff like really early in the game. Like,
what is like? That's what I wanted to say. So, what are your favorite Wonder Seed effects you've seen in levels?
So there was that. There's the one that like you start walking around on the wall.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Or the one where it's like a water level and then it's upside down.
Oh,
and you're
yes.
swimming in the water like on the ceiling, basically. That one's really cool too.
Yeah, that one's really awesome.
I like the balloon one. The balloon one surprised me too. When just the balloons got released and you're like bouncing on them as they're raising you up.
Oh yeah.
I thought that one was pretty fun too. Just like a cool kind of like, what the fuck? Like, what am I supposed to do now? Oh shit, there's a bunch of balloons. What's going on? And then you like figure it out, and it's just kind of fun. Or like, I like the ones also where you go past the goalposts. I've seen like 2 or 3 of those now.
Where like, yeah, like I think there's one, like it's like one of the snow levels where like, the Wonder Seed causes like,
it's rolling like a snowball.
The level like raises up and it starts rolling like a snowball. And then like when you get to the end, like, because like there's like the flagpole like not that far from the Wonder Seed. And so like normally without the Wonder Seed, if you just jump on the flagpole and it ends the level. But when you get the Water Seed and it starts rolling, it like knocks the flag like off of the screen and you just keep going past it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's good. And there's another one where you're like, there's a stampede of these animals and you're kind of like on the backs of them.
Yes.
And it goes past the flagpole as well.
Yes. There's that one too. That one is wild.
So those are cool. So there's like some really cool ones. But then I've also noticed that like they said that like every Wonder Seed was like kind of a bespoke original thing. And like in a sense it is, because each one is like they didn't just slap in a wonder effect and then it automatically generated how it worked. It had to be done, but they had to like program in, oh, these things are animating and these ones are moving and this thing is happening here. But they did repeat themselves several times, already, you know, just in like World 2, which like it makes sense when you think of the number of levels. They're not going to be able to like surprise you and blow you away every single time. But it was a little disappointing after the way they phrased it, that it was going to be like every one is completely unique. And it's like, well, no, not really. Some of them are. Some of them really make me laugh out loud or, you know, kind of gasp in surprise. And some of them are kind of like, oh yeah, it's the inchworm pipes again. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I got that. But yeah, so anything else to say about Super Mario Bros. Wonder?
I do want to say I do like the Mario Wonder flowers, the talking flowers. They're so great.
They're pretty funny, yeah.
They're very funny. Like I was just like in one level tonight in level 2 where they got like these dart birds that like target you and like go down you and like it's like there's a Wonder flower there. He says, "Is he after me?" And he's like, "Wait, no, he's after you." That makes more sense or something like that. Oh wait, no, he's after you, obviously.
Yeah, those are pretty funny.
yeah, they're pretty funny. Like they got like unique reactions to things. And I was like, and I saw like people suggesting to turn them off. I'm like, why? They're great. They add like a lot of flavor to the experience.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing with this. So that is what separates this from a new Super Mario Bros. Game is all the flavor that was added, you know?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't dream of turning off any of the flavor. In fact, it came out in an interview that there was a feature that they were going to put in that they cut that I'm so disappointed they cut because it sounded hilarious, which is they said that there was going to be a straight narrator through the entire game. And they cut that. But the thing that was even more interesting than that was that they originally had a different option. So you could have like a regular narrator or you could choose a tsundere narrator.
Yeah, I saw that.
Do you know what tsundere is? That's like a very anime thing.
I know what that is.
So for those who don't know, tsundere literally means like hot and cold. And basically it means like somebody that kind of has a cold exterior, but like is secretly like warm and loving or something. And so like the joke that you always see with tsundere is kind of like,
Baka.
Like, it's not like I'm happy or anything, stupid, you know,
right, yeah.
When they're like blushing, you know, and I'm like, the idea of like a tsundere narrator through this game, like as cracked out as this game already is, to have like a tsundere narrator through the whole thing, like, oh man, maybe it just didn't work in practice, but it just sounds so good. I hope they just make that like a DLC, like you just buy a narration pack DLC for the game or something, but man, yeah, so I dig that. And then the last thing I could say about the game for myself is that they clearly, and this also came out in interviews with the staff, that they wanted to use the basis of the movie and that there's people that are seeing the movie as like their first experience of Mario. I don't know who those people are. There's probably some kids somewhere that had never experienced Mario before the movie. Sounds weird to me, but they wanted to like appeal to those people. And so they put a lot into the animation budget for the game and really did that. And that was like another wise choice. And it's a big part of flavor in the game as well. Like that's what we always keep saying is flavor for the game, you know? And the details of the animation are really good. Just like when he goes through a pipe, like one of the side pipes and like grabs his hat because it fell off or something, you know, like all these little things or some of the facial expressions when you're like moving really quickly and stuff. It's there's a lot of work put in there and it's kind of the original new Super Mario Brothers games. That's kind of where they were lacking. And it was like they took Mario, they kept all the brilliant level design, they kept all the like cool power-up ideas and stuff like that. And they just got rid of like every other ounce of flavor from the game. And I think that's why people had such an issue with those games, and why still like some of the people that are like praising Wonder now are doing so like saying it's nothing like New Super Mario Bros. It has absolutely nothing in common with it, because they have a negative reaction because the game's pretty generic, you know, like they stripped away so much of the flavor. But I'm really happy that they brought more of it back. I think, what do you think is the next move for a 2D Mario? Like, what do you think is the next thing they need to do in a 2D Mario?
New Super Mario Brothers, its biggest problem is that it was just safe.
Yeah.
It was just like, just replaying like the greatest hits.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's got all the, like, it's got great level design. It's got cool items and transformations and stuff like that. But it's just, yeah, they're just not having fun with it. They're not really, you know, they're not being weird.
Yes.
Which is the difference with the 3D Marios have always done like weird shit, you know, like, so it's kind of like taking that element from the 3D Marios.
As for what's next for 2D Mario, hell if I know, continue being weird. Like,
I think that animations was the right move. And I think that the you know what's funny, the like, wonder, the eccentricity of the Wonder Seeds and stuff is also the right move. I think the next move is that you need to make the levels feel less stagnant, less like flat. You know what I mean? Like maybe have them be a bit more interactive, or have them animate, or maybe even like have. So I compared it, and I think it was taken the wrong way, but I compared where I think that the levels and the camera needs to go with the next 2D Mario game to like the Donkey Kong Country Returns games, in the sense of like that there could be dynamic events that happen when you're in the level that make it feel less like you're just on a created Mario Maker stage, and more like there's actually stuff happening, you know, like there's things being fired from the background that's causing explosions, that's changing the trajectory in the foreground, things like that, or like camera shifts. Another example would be like in Metroid Dread, similarly, like where there's certain moves you do where the camera shifts from like being completely like dead on side scroller to maybe like taking a slightly different angle before whipping back into the regular side scrolling thing. And I don't want QTE events in Mario, but like I want maybe more dynamic moments within levels. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the next area. I think that's the only thing about the game that feels a little flat, is that the levels feel very grid-based and stuff, you know, which it should to some extent, but just, it still kind of suffers a little bit there, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about Mario Wonder this week.
Yeah. Well, we might catch up on this a little bit later as we get further in the game each, but right now it just come out. We've had less than a week to play it. We've been playing little bits here and there until then, and we'll catch back as we play some more, as we find other exciting things. But that is it for our On Tap segment, and now we're gonna move on to full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, we are talking about Season 1 of Chucky, which is available on Peacock right now. Season 3 is currently airing on Sci-Fi and USA, both, I believe, and then coming to Peacock the next day, each episode. But we're talking about Season 1 today. Chucky was created by Don Mancini, who was the creator of the Child's Play movie series. He created this, he was a showrunner. Some of that came after his time at Hannibal. He kind of, I think, learned at the foot of Brian Fuller how to be a showrunner. Yeah. And this is this is his show, his first show, I believe.
So I gotta ask, first question I gotta ask up front, like, how much of the Child's Play Chucky series have you seen?
Not a lot.
Okay, so you haven't watched
I've seen the first Child's Play movie, and then I've seen bits and pieces besides that.
Oh wow, okay, so you're really not like...
I have kind of an idea of what's going on from, you know, other things, clips and stuff I've seen, or like where I've seen it in other pieces of media and stuff. So
I was gonna say, because like this is a show like that really benefits from you knowing the movies and stuff, because like this weaves in characters and plot lines from all the films, even the maligned films, funny enough. And it benefits from you knowing, of course, Don Mancini created Child's Play. It's funny because, like, what's unique in horror is Don Mancini has been involved in has been at the head of every Child's Play and Chucky movie in the franchise, except for the remake they did recently. Like, he had nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. That was Universal. But aside from the remake, he has been involved with every single one. And so like, all these are like his characters and stuff, his storylines, even the goofy ones like Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. And all that, like, comes back in the series.
Yeah, there's some stuff that I kind of had to figure out as it was going. Like, I didn't quite understand it. I wasn't quite getting the whole, like, why is Chucky trying to get kids to murder people?
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of throwing me. I was trying to figure that out.
That's like the big mystery of, like, the first season, is like kind of, it's kind of like okay, what's Chucky up to? Like, what's his angle with this? Mm-hmm. Right? And then you find out at the end, like in the last couple episodes, what his angle is.
Yeah, that was kind of something where I was like, am I missing something here? Like, I feel like I'm missing a piece of the puzzle. And they would reference in the movie, at a certain point, they were referencing that, like, Chucky split his souls into, like, lots of different souls going into different dolls and stuff. And I'm like, okay, like, I feel like there's a piece of the puzzle I'm still missing here.
That was introduced in a Cult of Chucky, which was, like, the last movie they did. Mm-hmm. So that was, like, the last movie before they started the series. And so that element was introduced in that film. Funny enough, Nika Pierce, that character was in the last two films, Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky. She was the protagonist in each of them. And at the end of Cult, after, like, Chucky reveals that he's found a way to split his soul and, put himself in multiple Chuckies, he possesses Nika at the end of the movie. And that's, like, kind of where that movie leaves off and leads into this.
Yeah, like those are the kind of things, like the stuff with Nika and stuff. I'm like, okay, I don't really know what's going on here, but I'm getting some context clues and I'm kind of figuring it out. And there were a few times where it felt like I was missing pieces of the puzzle, but it wasn't, it was nothing too complex. Like, it was, you're still able to follow plot-wise what was going on, It's just certain motivations. I'm like, okay, so Chucky has a motivation for this. I don't quite understand what that motivation is, but we'll get there eventually. And we did. With I was able to kind of get through to the point where, it mentions that the reason he wanted a kid to do that is so that he could do the soul split thing again to activate a bunch more dolls.
But like on a mass scale instead of like an individual, like he has to go up and do it to each one individually. He could mass split his soul to a bunch of dolls, and apparently for that he needs to corrupt an innocent. That was like the crux of the spell.
Yeah. So was that aspect something that's new for the series, or was it something that you knew from like the last couple movies or something?
I mean, that spell is certainly new. Yeah. It's funny too, like trivia, like the actor who plays Lexi's dad in this, he played like the head psychiatrist of the insane asylum in Cult of Chucky. Yeah.
Playing a different character, yeah.
Yeah,
so it has a lot of returning actors, but usually they're playing the same character.
Yeah, usually, he's playing a character in this, cause like, that guy gets killed in Cult of Chucky, so like, he can't come back.
He gets killed in Chucky too.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
He gets stabbed in the asshole.
Yes.
Along with probably another dozen or so people in that theater.
Oh yeah. The theater scene is like the big showdown at the end.
I had to do a brief check when I went to the movies today. I'm like,
yeah.
There's something under my chair.
Hopefully, you'll get a knife up your butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't want a metal enema.
No, definitely not.
But, yeah. So that's basically was my experience with Chucky, is this, in the sense that I could tell there were pieces I was missing, but I was able to kind of glue most of it together and kind of figure it out. I wanted to ask you, like, one thing that I really kind of only noticed in the last episode, and then it kind of became something I'm like, I wonder if this was in the movies before or something. Was it always that Tiffany was also the actress who plays her, Jennifer Tilly as well?
Not initially. So this happens in like Seed of Chucky, because like this movie's really silly, because like what happens in Seed of Chucky is like Tiffany and Chucky are in Hollywood. and they're trying to like they're trying to find people to possess so that they could be human again.
Mm-hmm.
And Tiffany decides like she's going to possess Jennifer Tilly and just be Jennifer Tilly.
Okay, so that's it. So she possessed Jennifer Tilly.
Yes.
Okay. So that's funny. So that's like, it went really meta at that point, I guess.
yeah, it got really meta at that point, yeah.
Another thing that I thought was interesting.
And in that movie, Chucky ultimately decides he doesn't want to possess anybody and that he loves being a killer doll, so.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that eventually also, was like, there didn't really seem to be much motivation for Chucky to become human again, which was like, the only movie that I watched the entirety of was the original Child's Play, and that was like his whole motive through the whole movie was trying to get a body back,
Right. Oh, yeah. It's his motive for like the first 3 movies. And then it kind of like, and then like, I guess like he just gives up on it at the end of like Seed of Chucky.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I thought was kind of interesting with this too is that before I started watching this, I started seeing some commercials for season 3, and it looked like Devon Sawa was playing the U.S. president or something. And I'm like, what? What's going on? It's like,
perhaps.
And I was like, wait a minute. And then, so I started watching this and I'm like, oh, I'm seeing Devon Sawa. And I was a little confused. I'm like, wait, he's playing like 2 characters. And then I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, that's weird. Okay. So, but they're brothers. And I'm like, so I'm guessing that the one brother that's kind of got it together more is going to end up, becoming the president somehow or something. So I got this. So I was completely thrown by that, that's just an example of like seeing something a bit ahead and then, your brain's constantly trying to connect the pieces.
Oh yeah. I guess that's a side effect of having watched this so late instead of like when it aired. Yeah, just wait till you get to season 2 on that. That's all I'll say on that front.
All right. So, so it's always fun to see Devon Sawa because he's, I liked him when he was like a teen actor,
Yeah. I think once you start watching season 2, then you'll like understand what's going on with Devon Sawa.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Devon Sawa is great. He's fantastic.
I loved him in like Slackers, and I loved him in like Idle Hands, and he was in a bunch of like kind of fun movies. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Final Destination.
Yeah. And then he had like he was gone for a while after that when he kind of like lost his baby face.
Yes.
And then he showed up again. He was in the TV series Nikita. He was like a late addition.
Okay.
And he was good in that as well. Like it was like an action role. So it was like a kind of different thing for him. But yeah, so I'm a Devon Sawa fan. So it was cool seeing him there. Otherwise, I'm trying to think of like how I want to approach talking about the show, because you have basically the story, this guy from a troubled home basically finds a Chucky doll. He's an artist.
Teenager. Yeah. He's a teenager. Like, yeah.
Teenager, yeah. He's an artist. He uses doll parts in his art.
Yeah.
And, that's how he ends up getting a Chucky doll. And
so this is our protagonist, Jake. It's interesting too, because like it is kind of new for the series, where like we never had like a young teen protagonist in like these movies. Like
it's usually been like a kid, right? Like a little kid.
Yeah. It's like it's like for the first 2 it's Andy and he's a little kid, and then for part 3 like there's another kid, and then there's like Andy, but like he's a lot older. He's like around like 18 or 19 in the 3rd movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the 4th movie is I believe it's some like really like I guess like seniors in high school or something. They're probably like 17 or some shit in the 3rd movie or the 4th movie. And then like the 5th movie, like they're not really a protagonist. There's just like random people. I don't know. I don't know. Then in like 6 and 7, it's Nika, and she's an adult. So like, there has been like a young teen protagonist in the series up until this point.
Yeah, which is tricky because I think for a series, for a property like Chucky to work as a series, part of the problem is, and it's a problem with horror with TV in general, which is just TV lives kind of on stasis. The idea that like, okay, you can have some stuff happen, but stuff goes back to like a relative norm, and then you get your next episode or something. And then you get more serialized television, and you still have a little bit of that because you're trying to spread it out. And so there's like this sense sense of like, okay, well, but if a character's like a main character, is there any like danger to him or something? And that's the trick. That's what makes it hard for horror to work in TV, is that exact aspect, is you want to be attached to a character, but if you're going to have a character that's going to be around through multiple episodes, multiple seasons of a show, how do you keep them still in actual danger, you know?
Yeah.
And so this is something that I think Chucky's having to face, that the Child Play movies, apparently they did keep, you know, characters of protagonists alive and stuff through a lot of it, because we're seeing them here again. But I think that it's a bigger challenge to set up the idea of like, okay, they establish, for example, the character of Lexi Cross as kind of this bully. Horrible person, just very nasty, very bad to Jake. They set her up clearly as like, oh, she's going to be killed very quickly. She's like an antagonist. They're going to set it up. We're going to get a satisfying death for her. And they take a very different approach to that.
Yeah.
And by the end of the series, she's one of the central protagonists of the show.
Oh, yeah.
There's like three central protagonists, basically.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so yeah, like, it's an interesting dilemma for a scary series to try to like figure that out. Like, how are you going to deal with the idea of like making changes that are enough that you can still have kind of danger for characters, or like unpredictable paths for characters, like you could in a movie, but it's harder to do in a series.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've covered most of what I wanted to talk about from it. Tell me some stuff about why Chucky was such a big deal for you, and why Child's Play was such a big deal for you. So,
well, I mean, I'd always liked the movies. I like the character of Chucky. He's a fun horror movie villain, obviously. And
yeah, the mouthy horror movie villains are always fun. You know, Freddy and Chucky being two good examples.
oh yeah, absolutely. And they're fun movies. Like I admit, like I fell off like after 3 when they did like Bride and Seed, like those movies, like and I still don't really like those movies much. Like they're weird, especially Seed is just like a weird movie, which is fine. Like Don Mancini had said, like the reason is like, you know, like he you know, like after he said, you know, after 3 movies he wanted to do something different with the franchise. And try different things, and you know, so yeah, it's certainly different. Yeah. But then, like, I heard, like, they were doing, like, Curse of Chucky, which was, you know, bringing it back, to more of, like, the classic Child's Play vibe. It's going back to, like, the vibe of the first film.
Mm-hmm.
And also with, like, Cult. And I thought, oh, yeah, okay. I watched those, and then, like, I think, like, sometime, like, before season 1 released, I went and I rewatched the entire series just to be caught up. And yeah, no, I just think he's a fun horror movie villain, and it's funny because like this show could have been awful, but like the show, like I watched the first season, and it's a lot of fun. Chucky's got, you know, some great lines, like all the protagonists are likable despite like being teenagers. Like they don't go like super heavy into teen drama, you know, with it.
They do a little bit at the beginning, but then they kind of back off.
Yeah, they kind of back off. Especially because, like, one of the kids who's like the bigger bully, like, Chucky kills off at a party.
Yeah, it's like pretty much by accident, almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's like, oops, well, gotta kill you now, I guess.
Yeah, well, he's like, well, since you're here, you know, I might as well.
Yeah. So my reaction was, like, as I was watching it, I'm like, it's a bit cheesy. It's a bit cheesier than I thought it was going to be. I knew it was going to be kind of weird and funny and stuff, but it was a bit cheesier than I thought it was going to be initially. And it goes back to what, you know, Child's Play has always been. It's like the idea of a little doll being able to, like, kill you or something, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Is just kind of weird, and they play into it for fun, and they even point it out a few times. Like, you know, there's a point where, I think it was in, like, the last episode or the second to last episode where Chucky's like, what, are you surprised that, like, you know, a little doll's able to be this strong? You know, and it's just kind of, they play with it a little bit. They acknowledge it, and they lean into it in a fun way. And that's kind of when it gets better. Like when Chucky's kind of just doing regular stabby kills and stuff, it's not as fun as I think when he's like being really mischievous and setting things up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, one of the things about Chucky is like he does like manipulate people to get them like where he wants them, you know, for maximum effect.
I love the kind of, I'll call it like the Council of Chucky scene, when he got all the new activated dolls and then he was like laying out ground rules.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And they're talking about like, killing, what about children or something, and he's like, well, we don't kill babies. We're not savages. And then he's like, define baby.
Yeah.
And then they go through that, and then the person's like, and then another one of Chucky's is like, but what about twins? Twins can sneak up on you. So I thought that was really funny. And that's kind of, I think, moments like that are when the series is at its best.
Oh, yeah. And of course, like, there are plenty of kills within the first season. The show is not shy about kills or like, we gotta have these characters, to last like the runtime. Like there are a decent amount of kills in just the first season alone. So like, it's just like, yeah.
There's one episode where there were quite a few. Like, it was surprising the number of deaths. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the one that ended with the principal's head rolling. Yes. And had a good needle drop too with off with her head,
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was so good. No, I think like this show has like everything you could want from, a Chucky show, really.
Yeah,
like,
and that's, we've mentioned it so many times, but it's the people that are important, Don Mancini, he's critically involved. He's running the show.
Yes.
And that's why it works, is because you have the person that cares most about the franchise doing that,
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I thought it was a little weird when they were doing the flashback sequences with Chucky, and they had like the younger actor playing the younger version of Chucky, but with like Brad Dourif's voice.
Oh yeah, going into like his background. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a little bit weird. Like it's weird getting so used to hearing that voice from Chucky and then seeing Chucky as like a human and then having that voice match. Instead of like an actor with a similar voice or something, they just dubbed it over. And that was a little bit weird.
It's funny, like in the scenes where it's shown like the flashback scenes where it's showing like Charles Lee as like an adult, in Chicago. That's actually Fiona Dourif dressed up like it doing that.
Oh, that's his wife or what?
Fiona Dourif is Brad Dourif's daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Brad Dourif or anything.
Oh, okay. Legendary actor Brad Dourif.
Like I said, I've only seen the first Child's Play movie.
Oh, he's been more than Child's Play. Like, he was in Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. He's Wormtongue.
Okay.
Yeah. He's also Deadwood. A bunch of stuff, really.
Wait, was he the doctor in Deadwood?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I know who he is now.
Yeah. And he's been the voice of Chucky since the first movie.
But it was a little bit weird having his voice come from somebody else, like, in the flashbacks. But, I understood why, because, he's the character. He's the voice. You don't want somebody else doing it. It's like you don't want a different Bender, when the whole Futurama thing happened. You want the right Bender.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. You want the right Bender, yeah. Except no substitutes.
Yep. But that's pretty much it. Do you have anything else you want to say about Child's Play? Or not Child's Play, Chucky?
No, that's it. Looking forward to you watching season 2 to get your impressions on that.
We'll pace that out. We'll do that a little bit further down the line when we have another empty spot. Maybe we'll get it so that, I don't know if there's going to be a season 4 or whatever. Maybe we'll line it up so that we can be caught up in time for that next year or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think season 3 is currently airing. I think they're doing season 3 in 2 parts instead of all at once. I think that was because of the strikes. I don't think they have the latter half of the season completed.
Makes sense. Those damn strikes.
Yeah.
But, so that is it for Chucky, and that is it for this week's show. Next week, we are going to be talking about Castlevania Nocturne. So stay tuned for that, and make sure that you've watched Castlevania Nocturne before tuning in and listening to our discussion.
Going to be a banger.
Will's already seen it. I've seen the first 2.5 episodes when they first showed them on that YouTube presentation thing. So I need to jump in and watch watch the rest of that. But we'll be doing that next week, so stay tuned for that. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, our Facebook page, our YouTube page, everything. It's all there. If you go to our website, thetotalscreen.com, and open up a container story for any of the podcasts and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see all of the relevant links to the RSS feed, the SoundCloud page, all of that stuff. It's all there, everything you need. You can also subscribe to this podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcast or Pocket Cast, just by looking up the name of our show on screen. So do that if you have those apps and use them. You can also go to our YouTube channel, and our entire backlog of our podcast is available there. So if you want to go back and listen to us talk about, the first John Wick movie, or you want to go way back, and before the OnScreen podcast, we had another podcast called The Weekly Set. You want to go way back and listen to us talk about Hannibal. Go back and listen to us talk about Game of Thrones. Whatever. Anything you want, check that out through our YouTube page. But until next week, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.